Okay. This is going to be Chris's real test, is getting the scripture up. But the title of tonight's Plan, and the scripture's from Nehemiah 2. So if you want to be finding that. But, serving God, it requires intentionality. We have to know what we're going to do. I mean, it's like planning. Sometimes we don't think about planning, but, right now, I hope each and every one of y'all and the others out there, I hope they're planning on being at church Sunday. You have to be intentional to be here. You have to plan on being here. If you're not planning on being here, you're planning on doing something else. So, we need to plan to serve God. We need to make that the foremost thing, the first thing, that we're planning on doing. That He's not at the end. We don't just fly by the seat of our pants, as some might say, when we're making plans, that, well, if I get up Sunday and I feel like it and the dog's fed and all this, then I may go to church. That's not the way we should be. If we making plans, because if you don't have that intention out and, being intentional about it, then, you get up, and if you hadn't washed any clothes and you hadn't got any clothes to wear, then, that's an excuse right off the bat not to go to church. So, all these things requires planning and, whether it be coming to church or being a project or, whatever it is. Some people, like I say, they fly by the seat of their pants. Some people just plan out every detail, and consider every possibility. That's, anybody who works with me, that's where I am. I'm one of these, I over-plan. I plan about my plan and plan about the plans and try to have every detail covered. Because inevitably, every detail is not going to be covered. I don't care how much you try to plan, you're going to miss something. And I guess, at least for me, if I think I got everything covered, then one thing comes up maybe instead of 5 things, and it makes things go better. But that's just the way I work. But most people fall somewhere in the middle there. Everybody has different levels of doing that, but that's what we're going to see tonight is about planning. And I mean, that's where somebody asked me the other day, said, how'd your vacation go? Because we was on vacation a week ago. I said, well, it went pretty good. Well, what do you mean pretty good? I said, well, I carried 5 deer stands to put together, and I only got 4 of them done. So, but I had plans to get 5 done, but I only got 4. And it wasn't because I was lazy, it's because I didn't plan enough to carry the bigger trailer. Because I got the 4 together, and I couldn't figure out how, I said, if I put that 5th one together, there's no way I'm going to get it. I'm going to have to leave it at the lake. So that's the reason I had to quit, but that was good, because after I put them first 3 together, then I was ready for a vacation. I done worked out there in that heat and all, so, but, that's just, everybody does things different, plans things different, but, that was, if that was the most disappointing part of my vacation, then I had a good vacation, whether I want to say so or not. But, we all plan things, we do things, and, but, most of the time we do well to ask ourselves, in whatever we're doing, is this the most effective way that I can carry out the task that I'm trying to accomplish? And this should be the practice for anything that we're doing for God. Anything we're doing for God, we should do the best we can do. He deserves our best effort. He don't deserve second best, third best. We need to be faithful and certain in what we're doing for Him. We need to make that plan and carry that out, just like being here on Sunday. But if we go back to Nehemiah 2, verse 1, and look at there, Chris has got it down pat. He's doing good. Because y'all don't know how many things can go wrong when you're trying to do that. I mean, there's several little steps. But Nehemiah 2:1, and it came to pass in the month of Nisan, in the 20th year of Artaxerxes the king, that wine was before him, and I took up the wine and gave it unto the king. Now I had not been before time sad in his presence. Wherefore the king said unto me, Why is thy countenance sad, seeing thou art not sick? This is nothing else but sorrow of heart. Then I was very sore afraid, and said unto the king, Let the king live forever. Why should not my countenance be sad, when the city, the place of my father's sepulchres, lieth waste, and the gates thereof are consumed with fire? Then the king said unto me, For what dost thou make request? So I prayed to the God of heaven. And I said unto the king, If it please the king, and if thy servant have found favor in thy sight, that thou wouldest send me unto Judah, unto the city of my father's sepulchres, that I may build it. And the king said unto me, the queen also sitting by him, For how long shall thy journey be, and when wilt thou return? So it pleased the king to send me, and I set him a time. Moreover, I said unto the king, If it please the king, let letters be given me to the governors beyond the river, that thou may convey me over till I come into Judah. And a letter to Asaph, the keeper of the king's forest, that he may give me timber to make beams for the gates of the palace which appertain to the house, and for the wall of the city, and for the house that I shall enter into. And the king granted me according to the good hand of my God upon me. And then skip down to verse 17. Then said I unto them, Ye see the distress that we are in, how Jerusalem lieth waste, and the gates thereof are burned with fire. Come, and let us build up the wall of Jerusalem, that we be no more reproach. Then I told them of the hand of my God, which was good upon me, as also the king's words that I had spoken unto me. And they said, Let us rise up and build. So they strengthened their hands for this good work. Like I say, we see here, and we're talking about Nehemiah here, and he had heard of the dire situation of his people back in Jerusalem. He's there serving the king, but he's concerned about his people back in Jerusalem. And Nehemiah has come up with a plan. He's come up with a way to try to help his people. And he knows with the Lord's help he can work this, but he had this plan, he was working the plan, and he was patient. Sometimes we have to be patient in working our plan. Everything don't happen just bam, bam, bam like we want it to. Sometimes, we have to remember it's in God's time, not in our time. A lot of things we're a instant gratification people now. Everything's fast food, everything's instant. Got to have it in a hurry. But Nehemiah had a plan, and he knew that if he worked this plan, that God would bless him in this. So, we see that in these first 5 verses that we need to take action when opportunities present themselves. He didn't know when it was going to happen, but he already had a plan. So he knew what he wanted to do. He was just waiting for the time to come to do the plan. And we see there that, we see the timing, but he was before the king. Nehemiah was a cupbearer. Everything that went to the king, if they sent him wine, he had to taste it ahead of time to make sure it wasn't poisoned, or if it was bad or whatever. I mean, he was the last line of defense to make sure the king was protected. So he was putting his life on the line all the time for the king. So the king had to trust him because he was the one there that was going to take care of him. So, as he went about his job doing this, then the right day came, and he was taking the wine and, come before the king. And he did this all the time. This wasn't just something every now and then. So he couldn't just go before the king, but in these instances, he could go before the king. But we see here that, he hadn't been sad before. He come in this time and he was sad before the king. The king recognized this. So for the king to recognize he was sad, and, he could see it on his face. I mean, a lot of times, we think we're good at hiding stuff, but those that know us, they can tell when something's wrong with us. We may not say a word, but they know something's wrong. They just know that change. And Nehemiah had been before this king so much, the king knew that something was wrong with Nehemiah. And this was Nehemiah's opening, because Nehemiah, the king asked him, said, why is thy countenance sad, seeing that thou art sick? I mean, he knows that Nehemiah's not even sick, and something's wrong. He said, the king told him, this is nothing else but sorrow of heart. So, it worked out perfect for Nehemiah, because the king knew that he was, Nehemiah was hurting, and his heart was broke, but then, he's got the opening there, but then it says, Nehemiah says, I was very sore afraid, because all the servants, it's all about the king. It's not nothing about the servants. So then he was worried, because now he was getting more attention than the king. So he didn't know what to do, or, he was sort of, that's one of those times you can have a plan, but then you go back to flying by the seat of your pants, because sometimes you don't know what to do, or exactly how to handle it. But he knew here, and and he said to the king, let the king live forever, and then why should, then he's made up with the king, but then he says, why shouldn't my countenance be sad? Here's where Nehemiah's breaking the word to him, what he's trying to enact in this plan. He said, because the city, the place of my father's sepulchres, lieth waste, and the gates thereof are consumed with fire. So he's laid it out now, why he's sad, what, and this is what he's trying to accomplish. I mean, Nehemiah wants to go back and rebuild Jerusalem. He's wanting to go back and take care of things, and this is the method that he's doing. So, the king said unto him, for what dost thou make a request? So now, instead of him going in there and asking all this, the king's asking him, what do you want? What can I do? What will help you? What will make you not sad? And what's the next thing Nehemiah does? So I prayed to the God of heaven. Before Nehemiah said anything else, he prayed to God. It's probably a quick prayer, but he still prayed to God. God help me in this time. God lead me in what I need to do. So, that's what we have to do. That's like a while ago. That's what we got to do in the, should be doing all the time, but especially in the coming days, we need to be praying. Praying to the God of heaven that all the things will be put right here at Blue Ridge View and other churches around us. But after he prayed, he says to the king, if thou hast found favor in thy servant, that thou wouldest send me to Judah, to the city of my father's sepulchres, that I may build it. He didn't really want to tell him exactly what he wanted to do. Maybe he was being a little misleading, but he told him Judah, but he's laid it out now and told him what he wanted to do, and now he's waiting on an answer from the king, because he's sitting there doing this, and I mean, he's really stepped out on a limb in what he's doing. He's not, a lot of times you don't do this kind of thing to the king or before the king. So, he's doing that, but now he's, to the part that he's asking the king where he can go. So he's actively planning, for the work. He's already actively planned for the work that God wanted him to do, and now he's revealing this to the king to get there. So he's asked the king for what he wanted, and as we see down in verse 6, he says, the king says, how long shall thy journey be? When will thou return? So it pleased the king to send him. And then he set a time. So, he got what he needed right there. But he had planned, because he went on to say, if it please the king, let letters be given me to the governors beyond the river, that thou may convey me over till I come unto Judah. He was already planning on what, to make the trip better, to make things go right. And, he needed those letters because he got questioned twice about traveling through those areas. They didn't want him, they were concerned about why he was coming through those areas. So those letters helped him get through. So he went on, and then in verse 8, he said, and a letter unto Asaph, the keeper of the king's forest, that he may give me timber to make beams for the gates of the palace, which appertain to the house, and for the wall of the city, and for the house that I shall enter into. And the king granted that unto him, according to the good hand of his God. He was thinking of everything. But even like these letters, if he got there and didn't have the letters, he couldn't have traveled safely. If he got there and didn't have the letter, how would he have got the materials to do the building he planned on doing? So he had to have a plan and work a plan. So, because then all the time to get there, he'd had to send somebody back to get a letter, to get approval, to get that wood. So, that was important, to plan ahead, to be able to get the wood, to do the building, do what he wanted to do when he got there. And that's what we all have to look at. Sometimes it's tough, and it's, I guess sometimes I think I do more planning than I could do getting stuff done. But by the time I get to doing it, it's so easy because I've already thought of everything that it's easy to do things. But that's where he was, Nehemiah was here. All the things were falling in place because he'd done planned ahead of time. So, one thing we can, some things we can see is having thought through the details of the plan, that's critical to successful implementation. If we do that, then we can have good results. Having a good plan in place is essential for securing the support of others. Those people, they followed right with him. It wasn't just him. He had the people, his support staff, and then the king sent guards or army with him to help protect him. So, knowing that he had a plan, those people went along with him, and it all worked out. And, while we do well to plan for the work God's called us to do, the big thing we have to remember is ultimately it depends on God. It don't matter how good our plans are, or if we're not making the right plans or anything, He's going to make it happen if it's being done to honor Him, regardless of how bad our plans are or where we fail or whatever. Because in the end, ultimately, He's in control. We're not in control. We're just the ones putting feet and hands to the plans that He wants done and the things He wants done here on this earth now. So we get to verses 17 and 18, and we see here, as we say, not only did he have a plan, but he took on, enlisted the support and the help of others. He didn't go alone. He had others that he carried with him, and then he was dependent on others to help him because he couldn't do it by himself. Nobody can do things all by themselves. It takes the help of everybody to do these things. And we get down there in verse 17, it says, "Yet said I unto them, ye see the distress that we are in, and how Jerusalem lieth waste, and the gates thereof are burned with fire." They see all the bad stuff, what's up against them. A lot of times we can get discouraged because we see the bad things that we're up against. But he says, "Come and let us, underline us, build up the wall of Jerusalem, that we be no more reproach." Then verse 18, "Then I told them of the hand of my God, which was good upon me, as also the king's words that he had spoken unto me. And they said, Let us There again, us. It wasn't wasn't Nehemiah saying, "Let me rise up." He said, "Let us rise up and build." And that's what it takes. It's like today. We, the things we're facing in the future. Brian Haney's not going to come in here and rebuild Blue Ridge View Church. It's going to take all of us. It didn't get here under one man, and it didn't. This is not just Blue Ridge View. We all are going to have to work together. In all churches. We're not the only church that's lower in attendance than we used to be. All churches are in this thing, so all churches are going to have to rise up. We all got to rise up together to build back to where we were, and then to build on forward. Because God didn't call us. He's not even just calling us to get back to where we were. He's calling us to advance forward. I mean, we're here to bring this whole nation to God. We're not here just to get 70 or 80 people in here tonight. We're worried about all the people that's not here. That's who we should be worried about, not just the ones that's in here, because hopefully, if you're here tonight and you haven't trusted the Lord and you don't trust in Him, you need to get that settled with God. Tonight's a good night to do that, anytime. But the sooner the better. But we have to look at that, and we have to go forward, and that's what they did. It said, so they strengthened their hands for this good work. And that's what we got to do, Blue Ridge View. We got to strengthen our hands for the good work that needs to be done in the future. The church in Jerusalem, they were it was in waste. Nehemiah wanted to rebuild it, because of all that's happened around in our country and everything. Churches here, they're lying in waste in a sense. I mean, we're not in bad shape, but we're not where we should be. So we need to rebuild. Our church and others all around about us, we're all in this, and we all, churches all across the nation, we all need rebuilding. But it's up to all of us to restart and to start this rebuilding process. And the first thing you need to plan on, you need to plan to pray without ceasing. We need to pray for our church, our leaders, all that we've mentioned tonight. We need to pray for each other. We need to just lift each other up each and every day. That's the part of what good is a church family if we can't lift each other up. If we can't support each other, the church families are useless. We need to plan to be here every service. That's what's going to get things back when people get here. When people come and they serve the Lord, they come and sit under the Word. And I can guarantee you, from all I've heard, Brian Haney, if he's our pastor, at least for 4 weeks, you're going to get the Word. And that's what we need. We all need to be here. We need to contact. We need to plan on contacting. Start now. I mean, all members should have got these letters to be known, about what's coming. But those that you see that come that's not members, they may or may not know, because I'm looking at this as, we're about to get some gas on our fire up here. We're about to get done, and and I mean, if you want to attract attention, just have a fire. It's like I told somebody the other day. Steve Pilgrim went all the way to Table Rock when there's a fire up there to get on the news, because otherwise he wouldn't have went to Table Rock. But he was up there to see the fire, and then he ends up getting on the news. But that's the way it is. If there's a fire, people's going to stop and look. They're going to look at the news, and if they see our church on fire, for the Lord, they want to come and see what's happening. And that's what we got to do. We've got to get on fire to get people, and that's what's going to get people back in here. Get excited. I mean, it's easy to get down with all the stuff we've had to put up with, but we got to get on fire and get excited and get back, and that's what's going to bring others back, to our church. And that's not, like I say, it's not just our church, it's every church. And, that's where people, they're all looking for something special. And we can offer that up here. And, next thing that everybody's got a plan to do, you got a plan to step up and do the things that God's leading you to do. I mean, I'll just be honest with you right now. Do y'all see as many people around as you normally used to see? So it's going to put a little more pressure. Some people's going to have to step up so we can do the things that we want to do. And, it's a time that, God may have opened this time like stepping up. You may have said before, well, one thing always is, what makes it easier and makes a good excuse, well, there's somebody doing that, so they don't need me. Right now, there may not be nobody doing it, and we're going to need you. So, we need everybody, and to do that, and plan on doing that, and plan on helping in the future, because like I said Sunday, I mean, he's a fireball, and he's a go-getter, and he's going to want our church to move forward. If he don't want our church to move forward, we're getting the wrong man, because that's what the church is here for. And I know from all I've seen and heard, that's what he's going to stand for, and that's what he's going to expect out of us. So I'm just telling you now, plan on getting ready. If you don't want to have nothing to do, and it may not be, and I'm not saying everybody's got to, that it's something outrageous. But if you do the other things, if you pray without ceasing, if you pray for your fellow church members, if you hear every service, if you contact them, it may just be the fact of contacting those. If you plan on doing all of that, you're doing something. So it may not be being the next Sunday school director or whatever, or a teacher of a certain class. But all of these things are just as important as what you may think is a big job. So plan on doing that. Start now. I mean, we can all be praying. We can all be here. We can contact those round about us. Some, you don't know why. If you don't know why they're missing, then you need to contact them. I mean, that's just the easiest way I know to put it. And, it's as many people as we have. I can try, the deacons can try, but it's just, but the one that will mean the most of the time is that friend that they've been here with at Blue Ridge View. If that friend that you've been sitting beside every week, either in sanctuary or either in Sunday school, if you contact them and tell them how much you're missing them, that's going to maybe mean more than somebody that, sometimes a church our size, you don't even know who the other person is. I mean, sometimes we have to go to our directory just to figure out who people are. So, that one that knows you, that one reaching out to them may mean more to them and may sway them more than anything else. But that's what I say. We got to have a plan. We got to work our plan just as Nehemiah did. And this is nothing that's rocket science. This is all part of doing church. And we need to work on this. We've got things that we've got to do to get ready. And, right now, my plan is to try to work to get Blue Ridge View in the best shape we can have it in for when that man, whether it be Brian or whoever, when they come on staff, we need to be ready to hit the road and running for the Lord. And that's my goal, and I hope that's all of your goals. I mean, it's not that anything is that bad wrong, but, we all know that there's something we can do better. There's always areas to improve. So we need to do that. We need to move forward. And just like with Nehemiah, things worked out. Things are going to work out for Blue Ridge View. We've been here over 100 years, and we've been through things that's, I'm sure seemed a whole lot worse to the people then. So just what we've went through the past few months, it'll just be another brick in the road. As I tell Sally sometimes, because she'll be worried about something, I said, is anybody going to care in 100 years? Put the 100-year principle on it. A lot of things aren't near as bad as they are right now, because down the road, a lot of things is going to change, and it's going to get better. So, we know that if we stay in the center of God's will, that things will get better for us here, and we can move on and do what He has us to do. Scott Childs, will you close us in prayer? All right, everybody's going to be back Sunday, right?